Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2018 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGillivray Speedway at 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. And keep in mind, if you're coming in here for the Brickyard, you're going to come in for the Red Bull Air Race, you got to stop at McGillivray. It's only about 2.5 miles maybe west of the Speedway. Great place, great food, best service in town, and all the adult beverages are cold. Tonight's show is being presented by Honda and Honda HPD, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Verizon, IndyCar Series, and the SVRA. By the way, today is Johnny Rutherford's 80th birthday. And for those of you who know Scotty, on March the 1st she had a stroke. She is in Brownsburg in rehab and doing quite well. We want to send our best wishes out to her and hope she recovers very quickly. And also for those of you who have been around for a while and you remember Jan Schaefer, he passed away Friday or Saturday, I think. And they're talking about having a memorial service for him here on race week in May. They were going to do it Thursday, but that's the Hoosier 100, so they're talking about doing it Tuesday night and Wednesday. So I'll keep you up to speed on when that is. But Jan was one of the original PR guys for the Indy Racing League. He taught a lot of guys what PR is about. He was a writer, just a super guy. It's really a sad loss. And don't forget, every Tuesday and wait a minute, every Monday and Friday or Saturday, McGillivrays has entertainment. So if you want to get some really good stuff going on, you want to see what's heading, good entertainment, come on in. I understand the guy that's here on Mondays is spectacular. So if you get a chance, stop in. How many watched the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg? I hope you did, yeah. I thought it was a decent race. I wasn't surprised. This multi-decade veteran, Tony Kanaan, looped it 2 or 3 times. Several cars lost the rear end, and they've said that. And I think what they have found out, they still got some more to learn about the car and how it can operate. But I thought it was a fairly interesting race. The Mazda Road to Indy races were quite good. Poor Aaron Tillett, he couldn't get out of his own way. He crashed the second race, and I forget what happened to him in the first one. He went out. I don't think he went 3 laps the whole weekend. So that was a shame. But good racing down there. Tremendous crowds. Good grief. And it was predicted for rain, and it couldn't have been a better day on Sunday if they'd have tried. Do you need to see a dentist? And everybody can't wait to see one. I recommend the Indy Dental Clinic. Dr. Jack Miller and Dr. Liz Lewis have probably the best practice in town. It's rated as one of the, if not the best. Make an appointment, call 317-846-3125. And don't forget, you want to keep up with IndyCar and the Mazda Road to Indy program, go to tracksideonline.com. You get all the information, probably more than you wanted to even knew was available, but you'll get it all from the PR, from the teams, the series, you'll get it all. So let's go to my first guest, a gentleman that I have chased around. He's never home much at all. He's here probably for a day or two and then gone again. He was a multi-champion in a number of series in Europe. He came to America, ran the Pro Mazda series and ran Indy Lights, has a win under his belt. He decided it was time to move on to something more simple. So he got hooked up with the IMS radio network. He did such a good job there, NBC Sports Network picked him up. He was with them for, 2 years, I think, and then when they lost Formula One, they had an overabundance of talent, so he left there and is now the driver analyst on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway radio network. I listened to him this weekend because they were on the PA. He did a hell of a job. Please welcome the Viking himself, Anders Krohn.
Good to be here, Don. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I chase you enough, I get tired, and finally you say, I'm in town for an hour. Do you get excited in the booth watching and calling a race? Because you can see what most of us can't. You've got a pretty good idea what these guys are doing or what they're trying to do. Does that excite you as a former race driver?
Well, as it pertains to this weekend, I haven't been this giddy about a race weekend in a long time, and it was like even the practice sessions to me were incredible, just because never at one point did you have any clue as to who was going to be P1, if there was going to be any driver or team combination that was going to go the quickest. And just still after the race, we still really have no idea how the rest of the year is going to look. So for me, yeah, sure, I want to be in one of those cars. But I mean, just it was incredible. And I was, yeah, like I said, I was giddy. That's the only phrase for it.
I have said for the last three months or so, watch Honda. This is going to be a Honda year, I think. Now, it's only one race, but I think 8 out of the top 10 with Honda. That's a pretty good indication they've got something cooking. So I think it's going to be a good year. When Dale Coyne gets a win again out of the box, I think there's a couple. I think Schmidt's going to have a number of wins. I think both their drivers are going to score. It's going to be an interesting year and scattered out winners among everybody.
Well, I think the picture is a little bit more complicated, and I had some conversations with some people on the Twitter over the last couple of days, and there were a lot of people that were just basically jumping to the conclusion that, yeah, this is going to be a Honda year. But I think if you look into it deeper, I mean, look at who was running up front before they had issues. Will Power qualified second, Matthias Laced, rookie coming in, Jordan King, rookie coming in, all of them running with Chevy and running up front and frankly leading the race as well at some point. Jordan King certainly was leading and pulling away. So I think it looks like there's more parity than there's ever been. I don't think that we'll really know true engine power until we get to Long Beach, where you have that long run down from the hairpin down to turn 1. So I think that's when we'll really learn. Obviously, Honda's had a power advantage over the last couple of years, but we won't really know until Long Beach, exactly what it is. So I think right now it's looking a little lopsided just because of the incidents and everything that happened at St. Pete. But right now it's looking pretty close.
A lot of the drivers said, and it obviously is true, that the back end of the car now is light. You really got to have control over the car, and I think that showed this weekend. I think it's going to take a while for everybody to catch on how to handle the car, because now they got to drive it, they got to brake it. There's a lot more involved than just turning a corner because it's stuck to the ground. I think they lost 2,000 pounds of downforce.
Yeah, but more importantly, they lost the majority of that downforce on the top side of the car. So now when they brake, the car gets so much more dynamic rake, and basically what it does is it takes away all the underside aero. So immediately when you hit the brake, you lose about 1,500 pounds worth of downforce. So the rear is just skating all the way into the corner, and you don't get that grip back until you've started applying the throttle again. So the new car is so light on its feet, and it moves so much that the driver, brake release wise and turn in wise, you have to be so precise. And for those of you that watched, turn 4 in practice, I think every driver went down the runway, 3-4 times, just because there's those bumps, and once the car gets into that frequency of the bumps, it's so easy to just skate right through it now. So a lot more emphasis, I think, on driver inputs than there's been in years past. With the amount of downforce we've had the last couple of years, the driver can just drive through the asphalt, essentially. Just the more and more and more pressure you apply to the tire, the more it likes it and the more you can do. But now you really have to pay attention to everything you do with your inputs. And I think that's why some of the rookies did such a good job, Matthias Laced especially, because he said the new Indy car is basically the exact same driving style as the Indy Lights car, which also drives very, very light on its feet. So it's an adjustment process, and I think if you look at someone like Tony Kanaan, who's been used to driving with super high downforce now for a long, long time on the road courses, suddenly he's having to go back to his Indy Lights arsenal from, the 90s, right? So that's more of a difficult process for him than it is for someone like a Matthias Laced.
Did you get to tour the paddock at all and talk to these guys? And do they like the car? Do they like that they have to drive it now finally? Because they've been saying that for a long. We want to drive the car. Now they are.
Well, I mean, it's like what any driver will say. I love the rain because I'm incredible at it. But the truth is, there's only roughly like 20% of the drivers that actually like it and actually know how to drive it. So I think there's probably a good portion of the drivers that are in favor of this, but I also think there's probably a group of the drivers that's thinking, man, now I really got to work for my paycheck here. And it couldn't be truer. I mean, it's a handful, and that's what we love to see. I mean, it was a brilliant weekend.
Obviously, you enjoyed yourself. Are you enjoying the broadcasting? I mean, you went to the IMS radio network, were there for, I think, 1 year, and NBC said, hey, come on here. You were there, I believe, for 2 years. Does broadcasting, you really enjoy it?
I actually spent 5 years with NBC,
Oh,
but
it seemed like only yesterday.
and still with them for Indy Lights, but no, I love it. It's kind of it's obviously not the same as driving, but I really enjoy getting to kind of provide the driver's view of exactly what's going on, and I feel like this weekend I probably had the opportunity to explain what the driver's going through more than I've had in the last 5 years, just because there was so much going on. There were so many changes being made, and the driver is so much more of a percentage of the overall equation now that now they're really going to make their money.
You know, it's interesting to me, the transition. Now, I got to listen because you were on the PA, and I'm not trying to blow smoke at you, but the people that I knew said, "Who's that? Where's Davey Hamilton?" I said he was up on a scoring stand. He's doing strategy for Ed Jones. Well, why isn't he in the booth? Because he's doing strategy. That was Anders. Oh, he's back? Yes. Well, he's good. So, you know, the thing that I find about racing, a race fan understands. They understand the concept of the sport. And when you get an announcer in who doesn't understand it, they catch it right now. They know it's not. So I think a great choice that Radio Network made to bring you on, and you're interesting to listen to. I'm not going to make all the races this year, so I'll be listening to you.
I've been called interesting before, you know.
Yeah, I know, and you married her.
And not in a good way.
No, never thought of that. You co-founded a company and cleverly called Coforce, and you are in management and consulting and PR and all kind of. Tell me a little bit about what brought Coforce to work, and what are you guys doing?
We basically started Coforce when I was still racing, when I was racing Indy Lights, to help some younger drivers out, because we saw there was a pretty big disconnect between some of the decisions younger drivers were making that weren't necessarily helping their careers. So originally we just wanted to have somewhere, I wouldn't call it a non-profit, but we certainly weren't making any money on it, just to help some select young drivers out that we wanted to see succeed, and eventually grew to kind of include a lot of digital media. Now we do full-blown video production, graphic design, social media, public relations, and so on forth, and also a lot of business development. We work with Stefan Wilson. We manage him. We also work with some other drivers on the road to Indy and in other categories as well. And for me, it's great because I think it helps me a lot kind of understand the global picture of where motorsports is at. And as it pertains to Verizon IndyCar Series, I think it's never had more momentum from a commercial perspective than what it does now. It's never been more relevant. It's never been more appealing to a broader demographic that it's currently doing. I think they're covering all their bases. They have the in-person show, they have the digital media, they have the public relations, they have, and well, hopefully they can announce a pretty solid TV package here in not too long. But I think they're doing everything right at the moment, so it's making my job and my life a heck of a lot easier.
Now, I've noticed in the past, and I don't know if you're still, but you've worked with several of the teams in the Mazda Road to Indy, the team. And what did they do? Like Dale Pelfrey, you were with Pelfrey. Did they put his drivers to you to help guide them so they know where they're going once they leave him and be able to build their career?
Well, I wouldn't. It's not that straightforward. It's more obviously they'll have some exposure to us just because of the fact that we've helped them for the last 6-7 years. So yeah, it's not that straightforward, but we have ended up actually working and helping quite a few of his drivers, and it's been awesome. And having someone like Dale who's so committed to the Mazda Road to Indy, always putting his money where his mouth is as it pertains to getting the right drivers in and supporting the ones that don't necessarily have all the right monetary backing. It's great to have someone like that.
Do you get involved with driver training, like going up to see Darren and running drivers through that, or is that not part of what you do?
Well, unfortunately, not as much now as I used to. I used to be very heavily involved with that, especially when I was the sporting director for Team Pelfrey. Then I kind of oversaw all of that for them. But since then, kind of the business Coforce has taken so much of my work or my time that I can't really do that too much anymore. But I still keep a close eye on it, and it's really, really cool to see how far advanced the driver training is now. And as a result, I think that's why we're seeing, if you look at the qualifying order, even in USF 2000 or Pro Mazda Indy Lights, IndyCar for that matter, look at how much closer the fields are now than they were 10 years ago. There are no bad drivers anymore. The worst driver now is maybe a second and a half off the pace, whereas that used to be the difference between first and fifth 10 years ago. So all that access to data, video, simulator training, everything has just made it so much more difficult to get that last few percent out of your driving, and it's just constantly evolving. There's new simulator technologies, there's new training technologies, and as I'm sure you've seen some of Jim Leo's videos with PitFit, I mean, they're constantly reinventing the game from a training perspective to get their drivers to get the perception of or the depth perception just right, reaction training, blah, 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 blah. So it's really cool to pay attention to.
As James Hinchcliffe said when they were interviewing him at one of the Dancing with the Stars, it was near the end of the last night or something. I said, "What are you going to do from here?" He said, "I go back to my job, or I sit down to work. I make my living sitting." Physical fitness is extremely, I mean, it didn't used to be. Geez, physical fitness was driving from the speedway down to the white front and sit and drink beer all night. That used to be physical fitness. But it's totally changed now. And how important is it for a driver to be physically fit to drive a race car for 3 hours, 3.5 hours?
Well, it's huge because I think, a few years back it used to be where you could do a qualifying lap, in qualifying, and then in the race you could sort of just, I wouldn't say cruise, but you could certainly have a pretty solid, cruising pace during the course of a race. But now it's an outright sprint, and that even goes for like the 24 hours of Le Mans. That used to be the ultimate endurance race, and now that's just a 24-hour sprint race because of how the technology with the cars has evolved to the point where you don't have to hold back as a driver. It is just go, go, go. And obviously the same applies for IndyCar, and it was cool to see this weekend the difference in the drivers. Usually you'd see drivers come out, they'd feel their neck, they'd feel their shoulders because there's so much G-force. But now it's actually not so much G-force, but now the cars move around so much that these guys are out of breath. So that when they come out of the cars, I don't know if you guys saw the victory interview with Sebastian Bourdais, but I mean, he was drenched. He was out of breath, drenched, and it's just because the cars move around so much, and so there's so much in your hand-eye coordination, your pedals. I saw basically every driver had blisters coming out of the cars just because of how busy they are in the car now. So it's a different type of fitness now, but in my opinion, it's a cooler way because it looks so much more spectacular.
And you got to take your hat off to Firestone because they take the time to see what they need so the car, they move so it doesn't wear a tire out in 5 laps. So that's a great partner that IndyCar has with them. Have you looked at maybe going to, and I haven't recently, but in years past I've gone to some of the hot dogs at USAC and said, you need to get a resume together. You want to go to IndyCar? Yeah. You got to have, people know me. No, they don't. Not anymore they don't because there's so many other things to do in the world. Have you guys ever approached USAC about helping tell their drivers how to move up, how to make a name for how to brand yourself?
I'll be perfectly honest. We've had one conversation with the people at them at USAC, so that's about as far as it went at the time. That's not to say there couldn't be anything in the future. Would love to. Any USAC people out here? No?
I can understand why you haven't heard a second time. I don't know who you talked to, but we'll talk about that later. But I think there's some super talented young drivers in there should get into the Mazda Road to Indy program. So,
but you know what though? I've been paying attention. I actually went to the Chili Bowl for the first time last year. It's incredible. Just oh my God, blew my mind. But I mean that's his own niche now. I mean you can actually as a driver, if you're a good driver in that, you can make a living. You can race enough races to where you can make a living at that. So yeah, I get that there's still drivers that aspire to be in the Verizon IndyCar series, but I mean, there's probably more drivers making money doing the Chili Bowl and those types of races than there is IndyCar drivers.
Well, that's probably true, but again, when you have a resume that says I won the Chili Bowl or I won the 500, which follows you forever?
Chili Bowl, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes from that saying, yeah.
That's in fact when I talked to JR the last time, he said the only thing I miss in my resume is I didn't win the Chili Bowl. I said, John, when you ran, there wasn't one. What do you think of the new cars? Do you like them? Do you think their design? I mean, the design is fabulous.
I don't like it. I love it. It is.
That's good enough.
It is and I think I actually said last time we were here, the only thing I wish was different was that they had a proper engine cover, and the only reason, or even a fin, the only reason for that is it would be a little bit easier to accommodate a co-primary sponsor. that's just the commercial guy in me speaking. Other than that, they couldn't have done a better job, and it is the way 366 passes at St. Pete is nuts, absolutely nuts. So the way it races, the way it looks, and it's supposed to be more cost effective. Well, obviously, it was a big expenditure for the teams to get the new looms and data systems and body kits and everything, but it will be more cost effective down the line, and so I think they've absolutely hit the nail on the head. I really do.
And the government helped out teams, I think full-time teams only, of which there's a good score of that. You know, the thing that I'm excited about, which will keep you even busier, is there's now, I think, officially 36 cars entered, and I understand there's a chance of one or two more that could make it. So this year, finally, there could be bumping.
There will be bumping. There
Yes.
absolutely will be bumping. They were oversubscribed, I think, a month and a half ago for the 500. And so, yeah, there undoubtedly will be bumping. And that's, I know we're not in the 40s. Like, I remember 2011, how incredible bump day was and how there were so many people in, out, in, out, in, out. But still, to have bumping is going to be incredible.
And the only reason there wouldn't be more cars is the engines.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Honda were the first to tap out, so I think they got the 18 engines basically right away. And I don't know if they're going to be in the position to add a 19th or whatnot. So now it's really just down to Chevy to fill out the final few. But personally, I hope it's close between the two during the month of May. I know it's been a little bit up and down the last couple of years, and a couple of years ago we all thought, oh, Chevy was going to be the brand to go with, and then Honda turned up and they were the only brand that you could win with, and so it'd be interesting to see what happens this year.
That's good competition, and when I talked to the guys at Honda, I said, "You want another manufacturer?" Absolutely, we'd love to have one. It would make it easier on the two of us to have another one come in. And when Jay Fry was here last year, I said, "You know, I don't like the car." He said, "Neither do I." "What don't you like?" "Well, I don't like the bumper on the back." He said, "That's gone." I don't think that the aero kits that I understand some between Honda and Chevy, they each spent around $40-50 million developing that, and the new manufacturer we've talked to don't want to spend that money. They want to spend on developing an engine to be competitive, and he's done everything he said. So you can't knock the guy for that. And I think when I last talked to him this weekend, it's probably 2020 there'll be another engine manufacturer. So that'll be kind of good. Be fun to see.
Yeah, it'll be great, and hopefully it's a long-term engine manufacturer as well that comes in to stay and puts appropriate amount of resources into it, and not like one of those no offense Lotus flops that were a few years ago.
What is it about motorsports that's appealing, do you think? I mean, there's cars going and they race and they do their thing. But, to me, it's the teamwork. I think motorsport, as I've said many times, is the ultimate team sport. I mean, you know, if somebody misses a block or misses a shot, you get a big deal. But somebody doesn't put a tire on right, or they don't tighten the suspension or set it up right, the guy driving, turning it, can be in trouble. So I think, you know, to me, I like to watch the teams work and how they get together and how important it is for the engineer and the driver to communicate. So I think, you know, for me, the racing is great, but I like to see how they got there. What made them fast or not fast?
I quite like racing too. Yeah, no,
I noticed that. Yeah.
No, I think for me as a driver initially when I got into it was just, well, it was obviously adrenaline, right? But I think jumping in a go-kart for the first time, I got the sense that, man, this is something that you can push and push and push and push to perfect, but you'll never be able to be 100% perfect because there is no such thing as a perfect lap. So I think that's what really appealed to me, is that search for perfection, as it were. But then from an outsider's perspective, I actually still remember the first time I came to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in 2010, actually, and it was on a practice day, and I'd arrived, drove in, parked, walked up to pit lane, and heard what I thought was a rocket ship, and I looked, and there was this missile coming towards me and just blew by me, and before I knew it, it was through turn one, and it was like an addiction. It was like, what in the world was that? And I need to do that. And I think when it comes to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it's on a whole nother level, because it actually is like a missile coming towards you, and the fact that all you hear when they come towards you is just the sound of the wind, and then they blow by you and they're just gone, and you have no idea how any of that's physically possible, it's emotions on steroids. It's something so surreal that I think the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, from like the first 5 minutes I was there, I'm like, oh my God, this is the place. Yeah.
What got you started racing cars to begin with, and when did you start?
Well, I got to sit in a go-kart when I was 2.5 years old.
Oh, that'll do
And
it.
apparently I cried when my parents tried to lift me out of it. And they had to feed me dinner in this go-kart. And so I guess they decided, hey, this kid wants a go-kart. So crazily enough, when I was 3.5, they got me a go-kart, and it was a cross kart. I don't remember this, but I've got photos of it, and they started it up, and I guess my dad didn't do a good enough job assembling it, because when he started it, the throttle stuck. So I took off, and it was on our terrace at home, and I took off and drove up against the wall and flipped over, and I guess I cried for a little bit, but then I wanted to go again. So I guess they knew. I guess they knew I was going to be hooked for life. So
You drove in Europe for a number. You won a number of championships, a lot of races. When you were running over in Europe, what was your goal? Did you want to go to Formula One, or would you think you wanted to come to America and run the 500? What was in your mind?
well, I always had sort of the pipe dream of Formula One, but I think from a fairly early on phase, I realized that it was never really realistic. So when I really got my eyes up for America was when Sebastian Bourdais started racing Champ Car. And I just loved the look of the race car. I loved the McDonald's livery. I loved it. It was just badass. It was just badass. And so the more I got into it, I watched NASCAR or Champ Car rather, and I got hooked on that because they had it on Eurosport in Europe. They didn't cover IndyCar at the time, but then eventually I started getting into that as well, and watching Elio and every one of the Marlboro cars, and it was kind of this just pipe dream of going to America, and it wasn't until first week of January in 2008 when I was given a chance by Dan Anderson, who now runs the Road to Indy, to come over and test an F2000 car, that I even really considered the US. And so just came over, did a test at Sebring, and the test went really well, and he basically just said, right, let's just make this happen. We need you in the car. And so yeah, did the year and won the championship, and again at the end of the year I almost moved to China to race Formula Renault. And somehow another deal came my way to race for a Texas-based team in Pro Mazda, so I stayed for another year. And I guess after that year, I'm like, well, now I kind of like the U.S. And so then year by year, I just found another reason to keep me staying and keep me going in the U.S. And here I am 10 years later.
Do you have a lot of following at home? I mean, do they pay attention to what you're doing? Can they listen to you on the air? I'm sure they can online, obviously.
Well, it was actually kind of funny because I just spent the last 5 weeks in Norway and Sweden doing some rallycross on ice broadcasting, which was awesome, by the way. We had Elio and Joseph Newgarden come over and do it, and
Yeah, I saw that.
hit some snow banks, and that was pretty hilarious, let me tell you. Especially Elio, because he's not animated at all, ever. No. But no, it was funny to kind of get to see the people that I hadn't seen in roughly 10 years and just see how the auto racing community has grown so much over there over the last few years. And it was actually pretty inspiring to see how big it's gotten and how advanced the Norwegian national team's gotten, and the fact that they have World Rallycross drivers, World Rally drivers, they have open wheel drivers, they have some Red Bull F1 supported drivers now, and Porsche factory drivers. So I mean, really, really good to see how much the community's grown there.
You know, the thing that amazes me, a guy that sells a little aluminum can of something that's supposed to pump you up with energy has got his fingers in all kinds of and airplanes, I might add. He built a hangar. I've seen videos of the hangar where his aircraft, holy Toledo. But, you know, what he's done for racing and with the teams, because as you well know, to run the Red Bull Formula One team, it isn't $11.40 a week. It's a big expense, but he's really gotten into it, and I didn't realize he was supporting drivers coming up. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's actually the very first Red Bull Junior driver he had was Sebastian Vettel.
He did all right.
Yeah, he did all right. Yeah, and actually I raced against Sebastian Vettel in karting when we were both 12 years old, and he was already at that time had a Red Bull helmet, and he was destroying everyone. And I mean, he was already then a heck of a driver. So I think everyone could see that he was going to go far. But I think Red Bull, they haven't just done a lot to racing, but they revolutionized the world of marketing. I mean, they've leveraged their product to become promoters, and so they're making every event that they partake in, every sport that they partake in, they get all this exposure, but they're cash positive because they get all these other companies involved to pay for it. So they're the most incredible marketing machine I've ever seen.
And all the four-wheeled stuff and two-wheeled stuff they do, they're fly too.
Yeah, exactly. They do everything.
Yeah, that
cliff diving as well.
Oh, really?
I think you'd be cut out for that.
Oh, no question.
I could see it.
Oh.
Don Kay, world champion cliff diver. No, you can't see it?
No, but what if I went up to try it? I could see something would be laying down behind me. I can tell you that.
You have all the physical attributes to
fat.
Really good center of gravity, I think.
When you came over here, you were just a young stud, bopping around.
I wouldn't say stud by any means, but anyway, I'll take it. Thanks.
Well, you fooled some. I mean, you talked somebody into it, and you're now married. You don't have kids yet?
Oh, not yet. No, travel too much for that, I think.
Well, yeah, you got to stay home. I don't know if you knew that or not. But
I hadn't figured that out, but thanks for letting me know. Yeah.
If and when the happy day arrives and you start, as Susie Weldon has found, her two sons now are into karting big time. In fact, they had a big event Saturday in Orlando, I think, and Sebastian, the oldest one, won the race, and his brother Oliver finished third. And I said, "Are you into racing?" "Oh yeah, oh yeah." So, would you like to see, if you have a son or a daughter that wanted to race, would you like to see him do it?
Like is probably an extremely strong word. Would I be accepting? Certainly. I don't think I would encourage it by any means, and that's not because I wouldn't want them involved. It's just because I think there's a lot of things out there to do, and frankly, if they choose something that's less expensive, I would fully support that.
Really? You think it would be cheaper to buy him a top quality set of golf clubs?
I think I could buy a top set of golf clubs every week or every day instead of racing. So yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I am very pleased personally, and I know a lot of people are, to hear you back in the booth on the air. I think you bring a different voice to it, and I know what I listened to, you were pretty much spot on what you saw happening, what you saw coming.
Dumb luck, Don.
When I say something, that's dumb luck. If I happen to buy some. Thank you very much. Speaking of dumb luck, that was Howdy Bell. I appreciate it, but do you do anything with driver coaching and karting or anything like that, or is that?
Not really, no. I mean, I've sort of moved on from that, and I'm a little bit sad. I have this running joke where it seems to be that I get dragged into either driver coaching or engineering once a year, and that always happens to be at the Chris Griffiths test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So it's kind of like my one time a year to dip my toe in the water to still keep doing it, and it's something that I miss because it's so fulfilling to see a driver go from this diamond in the rough to fully developed piece, and it's been cool to see drivers like Spencer Piggott develop and just look at where they started, and then you just help them in this little area here, little area there, and you kind of feel like that adds up to the whole overall picture.
And a guy who spends a lot of time doing that, of course, is Jay Howard. He's on the road with these kart kids, growing them.
Travels more than I do. I feel bad for that guy. Holy moly.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're on the road a lot. I didn't realize you were in Europe, though, or for the snow racing, ice racing. I did see it, but I didn't see that your name was there, so I missed that. But appreciate you taking the time. Glad to see you back in the booth. I think with a little bit of effort, you can make Mark look really good.
Appreciate it, Don. No, it's fun to be here. I'm not going to touch that one, by the way, because Mark's probably looking, and if I say anything demeaning, then I'll be fired, and it'll be all your fault, and you need to hire me full time, and which I'd be fine with.
He didn't say anything, Mark, so don't fire him.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks for your time. Good luck to you. Anders Krohn, the Viking. While my next guest is approaching, I want to remind you that Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville, Indiana is a place to go to find at the best prices in the country are in fact in the country at Daleville. Sam Pierce will always take care of you when he sells you a car. He doesn't stand behind you, he stands alongside you. And you will also find out why he is always rated at the top of customer satisfaction. Take I-69 north, exit 34, go east 1 mile, and you will see him on the right. You won't miss him. You want to see what these guys like about driving the Indy cars? You got to take a ride in the Indy Racing Experience 2-seater. You can go online to book a time when it works for you. Go to IndyRacingExperience.com, and in the promo box put SJ1 and you get a 50% discount. Or you can call Sean to 317-243-7171, extension 106, and mention SJ1. You get a discount. Is it time to look at the insurance for your home, your car, or your commercial property? Give Mike Pardee a call at VP Insurance. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street in the beautiful town of Speedway. Let them give you a quote for your home or your car. You might be surprised. Everybody that has gone there has been surprised. You get better coverage for less money, and Mike is always available when you got a problem. So give him a call. Number is 317-248-0070. That's VP Insurance and Speedway, 317-248-0070. And if you're a vintage car fan, the next race for the SVRA is the 2018 Road Atlanta Grand Prix, March 29th to the 31st in Brazelton, Georgia. If you're anywhere in the area, trust me, it's worth going to. Some of the cars you liked as a kid, you'll find they're running again and looking good as ever, so check it out. And if you want to keep up with what's going on in the SVRA, you got to go to svra.com and subscribe to the Vintage Racing Quarterly. It's a top-grade magazine. A lot of great stories in it, a lot of great pictures, and see what's going on in the world of vintage racing. My next guest is a young man that I'm sure everybody was thrilled when it was finally announced that he's going to be here. He got a ride with Burns Racing, and it's being orchestrated by Dale Coyne. And in case nobody noticed, Dale Coyne's car just won this weekend. So he's off and running. Hopefully it'll expand from there, but we'll find out all about what he's doing and how it happened and where he's going. Please welcome His Honor, Conor Daly.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
It's got to feel good to have a ride for the 500. You're set for that.
Yes, absolutely. It's obviously it was an interesting last few months, but when the doors were closing to the full-time rides, obviously we had to focus on one option, and that was the Indy 500, obviously. And it was really surprising how close we were to like not actually having anything for the 500, because there was a lot of people with a lot of money around. Surprisingly, that's why we're going to have 34, 35 cars maybe. So seats were going quick even for the 500, and if Tom Burns hadn't come to me and said, hey, we've got this program, I still haven't found a sponsor to try and do anything. So it's really tough to do that for anyone. But yeah, Tom had this program put together, which was really awesome, obviously, with the U.S. Air Force, and they needed an American driver, so I obviously fit that bill. So that was kind of exciting for me to be a part of, and so here we are. It's weird. I was always the guy looking for maybe just a 500 ride or something like that before, but now coming from 2 years being full-time already, it's a weird feeling. Everyone's excited about the 500, and I am too, but it's still sort of like, yes, it's great, and I got to try and focus on the fact that it is great, but, I definitely missed being out there over the weekend for sure.
Is there any possibility that this program could extend and the reason I'm saying that is this: you're sponsored by the U.S. Air Force, and part of your job for them is going to be recruiting.
Yep.
And you're going to go to high schools and talk to kids and explain to them what the Air Force is, what the advantages are, what you can get out of it. Mm-hmm. And if that's successful, I got to think they say, well, maybe we could do this more than just once.
Well, I thought the same thing with Smithfield about selling bacon, but that car burned to the ground quicker than my hopes at having them back. So that was it. All depends on the race as well, honestly. So we will be out there recruiting hard. The reason why they're doing it is because their recruitment is currently down a little bit in the Midwest, so it sort of made sense to them to have a big presence at the Indy 500, and they haven't been involved in the Indy 500 since the Rafa Matos days way back when, and that was actually the way that deal was explained to me was really interesting. But this is like the first really full official U.S. Air Force kind of embracing the IndyCar series type of a deal, and so they're going to have a whole giant recruitment experience trailer in the fan zone all month of May, all 3 weekends, including the Grand Prix. I tried to sell them the Grand Prix too, but it's too much money. So they'll still be there and we'll still be hanging out. But yeah, I mean, we're going to visit high schools. They're going to put me in jets and stuff like that. We're going to have all these experiences. They're really going to embrace it. So if you're at the track, go and see them and interact with them and give them a fake email address. I don't really care as long as they get some information to recruit. So I mean, it's really important to just get people there every weekend and every day, and I'm going to be there a lot. I'm going to try and get some of my friends to be there, and like maybe Pat McAfee or something, just so we can drive some traffic towards that area, because I obviously want to make sure that they really get a return on their investment, which is what everyone's looking for.
When I talked to the major that was there for the announcement from the Air Force, and I said, what are you going to take to the recruitment when you go? He said, we're bringing a jet. We're bringing a car. Yeah. And he said, we got an F-16 jet to go. I said, how the hell do you get that there? You don't fly it.
Yeah.
It's on a trailer, and we unfold it. And
well, Doug, my stepfather being the PR machine that he tries to be, he's already wanting to land a jet in the middle of the straight on the road course on race day. And I was like, I don't know if that's going to happen. I really don't know. But I mean, I'm down. I'll try. Like, let's go. So we'll see. I think there's a lot of exciting things that we can do. There's a lot of assets that the Air Force possess that we could really take advantage of, especially for the for the crowd that's there all throughout the month, which is there's a lot of people. So yeah, I'm excited about all the Major McKnight, the guy who was there with us doing the announcement. He's from Plainfield, Indiana, so he loves it, and he already told me at the end of the press day, because I think they were absolutely blown away by how much I basically blew up the internet with this whole announcement, and it took a lot more. It was a lot more traction than I thought it was going to get in general, but it really, really spread to a lot of different places. And he was like, "Man, I got to figure out how to get you in more races." And I was like, "Yes, please. That would be awesome. Like that would be great." So we'll see. There's obviously a lot of, when it comes to money from a military organizations, obviously there's a lot more hoops you got to jump through. But in the end, every sort of branch of the military is marketing in some way, trying to recruit in some fashion. So, hopefully this would be a beneficial one for them.
Well, if they're having trouble recruiting or is down a little bit, the Midwest, the Gateway qualifies for the Midwest. Iowa qualifies as a Midwest.
Trust me, I know. But I also see a $250,000 price tag with each of those events.
Well,
it's tough, but it's possible.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure the Air Force has convinced the military we need to spend some money to get guys in here and gals. So
if it works, yes. If it works, there's for sure an opportunity.
Now, I followed you unbeknownst to you. I saw you and talked to you, of course, and invited you here. But then I followed you around and just kind of stood back and watched.
Oh, that's weird. Thank you, though.
Howdy, he called me weird. And the reaction to people recognized you and realized from the Amazing Race. The reaction you got from that was astounding, I thought, because as I mentioned before, I've seen you before you had a ride walking down pit lane. People recognize you want an autograph. This was more. Good grief.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. I mean, the show has obviously done a lot for both Alex and I on the social media side, on just in general. I mean, I was in Las Vegas for the NASCAR race, and every single day at the racetrack and every single casino I walked into, there was someone or multiple people who were like, saw me from the Amazing Race. So, I mean, that's obviously a good thing. I don't understand how anyone that I was. Well, never mind. It's a good thing for me personally, but I still don't see how it didn't sort of enhance programs that I might have been involved with last year and or other programs that I could have been involved with this year.
It might take some time.
Yeah.
There are some people that got to figure out, how do I make this work? And
yeah,
you
for
put
sure.
it together, and then your phone will start to ring and say, hey, here's an idea.
Well, I don't know about that, but if I can put together something that I can bring to these teams and be like, hey, I made this work with a certain company, they appreciate the fact that, I'm a racing driver, yes, and I do believe that I can do the job, but I'm also a brand in general that people are following because of, the show, because of my personality, because of, how I interact with people, out in the world, you know what I mean? I think that's kind of interesting.
And as I have said before, and I'll say again, as I was stalking, your reaction with people, somebody stop you, want a picture, no problem. Want an autograph, no problem. Want to talk to you about the show, no problem.
Yeah.
I've said many times, you are, to me, what the series needs. And they have a couple of them that are like that. But, as you said, your personality shines through, and the people are drawn to you. And that gets you fans, and that gets you a lot of noise, and that should wake up some sponsors saying, whoo-hoo.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. Yeah, it's the interesting thing about it is I think we all grew up in this era of driver. I mean, Anders knows. He probably left, but Anders knows. Like, we were always taught to be super cookie cutter, very don't have a personality ever, don't do any of this, say the right things all the time and stuff like that. And I did that for a certain amount of time, but I think now you realize that when you interact with people at the track, or whether it's on the internet, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, people actually respond to that a lot more than just sort of like, if you post a picture of your race car every day, yeah, that's awesome. Like, what a cool thing. But it doesn't actually draw in more people. If you're doing something with a different crowd, if you're doing something with different people, if you're doing different activities other than racing, I don't think the racing community's really embraced that yet. IndyCar is trying, and they're really trying to push the drivers to, get out there, be interactive on social media. And there's a lot more of that this year that I've noticed, but a lot of it's still orchestrated. Like, it's done by someone else. You know what I mean? Like, all these guys, a lot of the drivers, not to name any names, but they have great social content, but it's all created and it's not original. It's not authentic. So that's what I try to put in my profile, is authenticity. Like, if I'm doing something on social media, that's me. Like, it's coming directly from me. I'm always going to be honest, probably too honest at times, which has gotten me in trouble. But I can't change that. Like, I'm not going to change that, because I think a lot of people appreciate the fact that there's someone out there that's trying to be real. And I think at some point we will probably be able to find a good group of sponsors or people that want to be involved with that. And certainly I've had a lot of CSM, which is a company that used to be JMI. That I have talked a lot with them lately, because they sort of see what I'm doing and see how I interact with people, and they actually ask me, what do you think about this, for like if drivers were to do this? Or if I was like, well, I'm not really a driver right now. I mean, I'd love to be, but if you're asking me for advice, then we have a bigger problem on our hands, I think. But I love to help, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to work with IndyCar just to get to every race, just to create content, you know what I mean? Be involved, try and bring a lot of personality to like the fans that are there, or go out and talk to people. Let's film it. Let's do something funny, you know what I mean? Like Joseph used to do when he interviewed all the people in the stands, asking them who their favorite driver was when no one knew who Joseph Newgarden was. I think that was great, and we haven't really done as much with that anymore. But yeah, I think there's a certain way that I'm trying to sell my program that I think is a little bit different, and the Air Force loves it so far, and I think there will be more people that sort of embrace the fact that authenticity is what's exploding throughout the internet, which is the internet is the end all be all right now. I mean, that's where everything is selling, that's where everything, everyone is something. So it's interesting to see how it'll play out.
I got to think, if you are successful for the Air Force, and I have no doubt you will be, that other companies will pick up on that, because it's no more necessarily about I'm a great race driver. You got to have a brand, and you've got to be a personality, and you're a front person for that company. And they don't need somebody that can't talk right, and is afraid of people. And certainly that's not you. You talk well, you speak well, you interact well. So I got to think it won't be that long when somebody's going to say, hey, because one of the things, it's not so much anymore with the name on the side of the car, because on these new cars you can't see that much, actually.
Yeah.
In fact, you can't see the damn numbers. But it's a networking that you get within the paddock that's good, and I think there's going to be a company pick up on you, and I don't think it'll be that long from now.
Well, I mean, yeah, we'll see. If that's obviously the goal. I would have thought the same with ABC Supply. A massive corporate entity. They brought hundreds to thousands of people every race, and I was interacting with all those folks. But still, there's sort of on the race team management side, there's different decisions being made, and there's sort of, I don't think I was necessarily treated fairly when it comes to like bringing actual exposure to that company. I think we did a lot for them last year, and in the end, this is a business, so it obviously didn't work for them. But at some point, there will be a company who really appreciates that side of it. Interacting with all the people that they brought to the events. Giving them social media time, giving them TV time, giving them sort of, I did the Amazing Race as an ABC Supply racing driver, obviously, what I thought at the time. And, I had mentioned them a lot on the TV broadcast. Obviously, they edited it out. I don't know why, but maybe I know why. But it was interesting to see sort of, that's what I was trying to help sell. So at some point there will be a company who definitely we get involved with. It could be the U.S. Air Force. It could be something else in the future. But, all hope is not lost for sure. I mean, we're still in this, and there are still people who believe in me in this sport, which is really cool. I even talked to, Alan McDonald over the weekend, who's obviously the Ed Carpenter Racing engineer now, and he's engineered a lot of incredible vehicles, and he was there when I went to Schmidt and nearly won the race in James's car in Detroit. And, he saw me, and I was like, yeah, man, it's tough. And I was like, I'm still, still working on it. And he's like, well, don't worry, I still believe in you. And I was like, well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So there's still a few people out there like that who have actually worked with me, who know what I can do. That sort of is really encouraging for me.
And of course, going with Dale Coyne and his people is a positive for you, because they have confidence in you as well.
Yeah.
They know that if they spend the time and effort to get a car, you could drive it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been at their shop actually since every now and then for the last couple months, and I couldn't tweet the picture because I couldn't say anything, but they gave me a job as the team manager for a while, sitting at the desk, because that's all they could do at the time. And I tried to be obviously there full time, but Dale has invested so much into that team. It's absolutely incredible. If you were to go over to that shop 2 years ago compared to what it is now, it's a totally different operation, and it's no wonder that they've started the last 2 seasons winning races. Sebastian could have been on pole last year when their cars were incredibly fast, and that's why we chose to try and partner up with those guys. And I think Mike Cannon has been trying to get me there ever since I left, or I was forced to leave, and I can't wait to work with them. I think we've got a really good group of guys, and they're going to be extremely fast, and I know I've seen the level of preparation that their cars are going to have for the Indy 500, and it's second to none. So I think it's going to be, they said, oh yeah, we're going to be even better than last year, and I was like, well, you guys are doing 233 miles an hour last year, and so I was like, that's pretty quick. So we'll see.
Do you like the new car?
I mean, it looks cool, yeah. I haven't driven it yet, and there seems to be every rule is against me for trying to test before the month of May, so I won't be able to drive it until May. But yeah, it looks great. I think it looks pretty flashy. I think it's I was doing a lot of spotting over the weekend, and the car is certainly moving around a lot more. It looks a lot more active to drive. People are hitting each other a lot more, which seems to be the case when you have less bodywork to damage. Will Power spun and nailed the wall with the rear of the car and didn't even have to pit. So, that's pretty impressive, I think. So, yeah, it's a good looking machine, and I think it's checking all the boxes for IndyCar for sure. We'll see when we get to the ovals, though. Obviously, how different it is.
Right. Well, it's a good thing that Dale sells a lot of barbecue, so we can keep the doors open for the shop.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, there's a lot. It's amazing.
I don't understand how he runs his business. He owns, if you don't know, he owns franchise for Sonny's Barbecue, and he's got them scattered around. There's quite a number of them he owns.
Well, he's involved in a lot more than that too. He's got a diverse portfolio, but he's also got Sully now and Jimmy Vassar, and those guys are kings of slinging sponsors in and out the door, and so it's really impressive, the group that they've brought. I mean, Dale has a full third trailer now totally dedicated to engineering, and they've got sponsor boards, and I mean, it's really impressive what they've done. It's like a whole new level, and it's great to see. I think it's awesome.
I wouldn't be surprised if Jimmy Vassar comes up with something to keep you on board. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Well, I had a couple cold beverages with Jimmy Vasser on Saturday night, and we were talking about that. But I don't know. They're all behind Sebastian Bourdais until I think he retires. So they're really faithful to him. But Jimmy's awesome. I was even talking to him about maybe calling my race because I was like, I didn't think he was calling anyone's race, and I was like, well, why not come call my race? And so who knows? We'll see what happens there.
Now, the Amazing Race. I asked you about it, and I'm going to ask you here. I'm not going to tell the answer. You guys got involved in all kinds of things, but did you ever get to spend any time or see anything of the countries you went to?
Absolutely not. Nope. We went from like challenge to challenge as quick as we possibly could. And then as soon as we finished each leg of the race, we were locked in a hotel room until we departed for the next leg of the race. And we could never leave the hotel. We could never talk to anyone. And all we could do was eat and watch TV pretty much.
Well, but that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was great. And and we also did laundry in the sink every day. So so you people that are thinking, hey, I'm living this lavish lifestyle, not true. I did laundry in a sink for a month. So I experienced it all.
And I think the Hong Kong was what kind of got you guys.
That's what got us, yeah.
Yeah. But I forget what it was. I turned it in one night, and here's Alexander eating something, a scorpion.
Yeah, he's eating scorpions. Alex was eating scorpions.
I bet he loved that. Did he order any in St. Pete? Did you know?
No, not yet. But good for him, because I don't know if I would have been able to do it. Because we obviously didn't know what that challenge was. I thought it was cooking, and so Alex obviously is very good at cooking. And so I was like, Alex, this is all you, bro. You got this. And then we walk in, and he has to eat these things, and I was very thankful that I didn't have to do that.
If something like that, not the Amazing Race, but some other opportunity came up to be on some kind of program, competition, something, would you be interested?
Well, it's a fine line, right? Like, because you gotta, like, those shows, like any type of show, whether it's, I think I'm only, like, contractually, I think I can only do CBS shows for a year, but I'm not really sure on that yet. But if you did a show like a Big Brother, or you did a show, that's a lot of time you have to dedicate away from your normal life. And in my current situation, like, obviously I'm fully committed to being a racing driver, and I thought I was when I did that show previously. And obviously, there was stuff going on behind the door that I didn't know about when I got home. So, I don't know if I can do another show like that, really, because it's a lot of time. Like, any show, any like full season of a reality show is at least a month, maybe 2 months away from sort of like any contact with the world. So I looked into it. I've looked into doing Big Brother and looked into doing other shows. And Susan Bradshaw's actually been helping me out a little bit. She was let go by IndyCar, which is an insane decision, I think. But she's really good at sort of placing us in different areas. And so I've been talking to her. I don't want to lose any time to dedicate to my racing program. So I think I'm probably off some television shows, unless they're like one-day shows like Family Feud was. So we'll see.
That's too bad, because it's my understanding that Dancing with the Stars, which probably took all that time, but I don't think Hinch walked out having to stop and buy white.
Yeah,
glasses.
no, you got paid to do that show. Yeah, our show you didn't get paid to. So, yeah, Dancing with the Stars I would do no matter what. Absolutely. Done. I'm all in on that. And I feel good about it, too. I feel ready.
Has CBS come up with anything, knowing your schedule and what you want? Is there any programs on the horizon you maybe could do in 2 or 3 days or whatever?
I'm not really sure yet, to be honest. We'll see. I think they've got a lot of people they can work with, so I don't know if I'm at the top of their list. I hope so. Maybe sometime.
I guess I wasn't really surprised, but the number of people that stopped you and recognized you from that and wanted to talk about it,
yeah.
I'm sure by the end of the day you were tired of answering questions, but you did.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, I don't mind at all, because, I mean, people, like, it's really funny to see, like, because people don't actually realize what actually goes into it, and, like, it's all you see is what you see on television, and there's hours on hours of stuff that you don't see, like days of stuff that you don't see, and so that's, I think, really interesting to actually tell people, because they're sort of really surprised by, that there could actually be other stuff going on other than what's broadcast. But it's a crazy experience. So I don't mind talking about it at all, because it's great that people watched. I mean, I didn't know that many people had television anymore, to be honest, because that's great news.
And you were in town, and we're at a couple of parties downtown. And you drew a pretty good crowd down to watch the program.
Yeah, it was really cool to see everyone come out, especially in Indy when we did that. We had our double win episode, which is really nice to see. And then speaking of other TV shows, Ari Jr. asked me if I wanted to do The Bachelorette, but it films from now until May, so I can't be doing that, obviously. I would. No, I wouldn't have, I don't think. Don't worry, guys. I haven't got there yet.
It was kind of interesting, the backlash that he got for what he did. But I noticed in St. Pete, people flocked to him, and they treated him pretty well.
I have no problem with what he did because he has got to be printing money like it's going out of style now. Because, I mean, that show is an absolute money-making machine. And Becca, I feel really sorry for her. Obviously, that was a terrible thing to do. But she must be, like, literally having cash flying into her face because people love that reality shows. They love it. And, there are people probably paying them to do anything and everything. And in the end, that's what you got to look at. I think.
Well, I don't blame.
Because Ari, Ari, obviously that was terrible. That was not a good thing to do that to, those two ladies. But I think he's gonna be fine.
Yeah, and I didn't realize, but he had met this gal in Texas, so he did know her. So,
really?
Yeah, he met her in Texas. Yeah. The Indy race, that's what it said. Now,
well, I know they were watching my show together before their show ended, so. He just couldn't tell me if it was Becca or Lauren. And then I figured out afterwards. I was like, "Oh, it was Lauren you were watching with, not Becca." So, because Lauren said to my mom at the weekend in St. Pete, she's like, "Oh my gosh, we love Connor on The Amazing Race." And I was like, "Okay, this relationship's been going on for a little while." It's crazy.
And I said, because I thought he was still on the East Coast, but he said, "No, he's down in Phoenix selling real estate." I said, "How's business?" He said, really
"Terrific, exactly, printing money."
Yeah.
He's going to sell every house in the entire state of Arizona.
Well, maybe you could talk him into it being a sponsor if he's hauling like that.
We did talk about that.
And he's still driving for Robbie Gordon. That's kind
Absolutely.
of surprising.
Well, yeah, I think he was almost doing the Indy 500 again. We were talking about that for a while, but I think he's having a great time racing trucks. Those trucks look like a lot of fun too.
Well, who knows? Hopefully you'll get.
Who knows?
You'll get back in the IndyCar and run a few more races this year and get a full season and go on from there.
I'll be racing more than at least the Indy 500, but it might not be in an IndyCar. So I know. We'll see. It depends. If I win the Indy 500, then who knows what'll happen, and that's obviously the goal. So.
Sure. Well,
Thanks.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for your time. I know you've got a lot of things to do, a lot of things going on, but I appreciate you taking the time here. I know everybody was here, and I got a lot of emails. You got Connor's coming? How did you do that? I did the old-fashioned. I asked him, and he said, yeah. So
yeah.
It worked.
Reality TV personality / racing driver.
There you go. Well,
I'll take it, whatever. I'll take it.
It was interesting to watch you and the things you guys had to do to get up to where you were. You finished fourth, which is not anything to hang your head up, because there were some phenomenal athletes in there that didn't do it. It cut out right away.
Yeah, part of the show, there's a lot of luck involved. Like, if you would have seen some of the stuff that happened, there was just like, how on earth could this even be possible? So it's something that we knew that when we got to that point, there was no way we were going to get that, because we just didn't know. And you have no source of information to go to find out that information. And, you can't really do research on your phone. You can't ask anyone around you because they have no idea what you're doing. You're just like a bunch of idiots walking with television cameras around following you. So we had no idea, and that was it. So we had done everything that we could do up till that point, and in the end we made all of the episodes, which is technically all that matters from a PR standpoint, because we made the most of the television time, which is good. So yeah, that was great, and we won the most legs, which was awesome. Sadly, we didn't take home the big prize, but in the end, I think it did a lot, for both Alex and I to kind of take us out to a little bit more of a level of personality. The one episode where we won both legs, that was literally all me. That was my entire personality right there. Like, if you don't want to know me, just watch that episode, and that's pretty much what I say all the time. Just stupid stuff. Every 10 minutes, I say whatever comes to my head, and that was it. So that's, if people wanted to get to know me, like, that was the episode to watch. So I think after that, I got a lot of messages. thousands of followers coming in on every form of social media, which is awesome. And yeah, it was a great experience in the end, for sure.
And I think when you go out to qualify for the 500, the reaction you get from the crowd will be huge.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I hope so.
Well,
I love doing that. For qualifying
great.
For the 500.
Well, I thank you for taking the time to come here, and we look
sure.
forward to seeing you in May. And who knows, after May we'll call you back and see what's your next event.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll be around. I'm working every day.
Well, good. Are you? Do you work out at PitFit?
No, I'm a St. Vincent's guy.
I see.
Yeah, every day there. St. Vincent Sports Performance. Ed Carpenter's before me, and then me, and then Zach Beach. We all in the mornings.
I saw that Zach has become muscular.
Yeah, as much as he can be, I think.
Tall,
Yeah.
And he performed pretty well this week, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in no position to judge anything. I mean, I think it was a really interesting weekend overall for everyone. And I think you're going to see probably throughout this year, there's going to be a lot of races where teams go up and then down and up and then down, because the setups for these cars, this new package is, especially on a street course, I think you can easily trip over the right setup. But if you go to somewhere else, suddenly that doesn't work. And so I think there's, Penske, they were nowhere. And we obviously know that's not going to happen the rest of the season. So, there's stuff like that can happen, I think, with a new car. That's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. You're going to have to be the most consistent guy probably all year to be there for the championship. And I think, like, the Andretti cars, I think, for sure are going to be consistent all year. But the Penske cars are going to be there, and the guys are going to fluctuate a little bit. So I'm very curious to see after, let's say, the first 4 races, or by the time we get to Indy, sort of what's happened, because there's a lot of smart people on all those racing teams now. A lot of smart people, incredible engineers from all over the world now. So and there's so little you can do aerodynamics wise that it becomes so heavily reliant on your mechanical package, and that's very important.
Yeah, it'll be fun, and as Joseph Newgarden from Detroit and others have said, now you have to drive the car, because when you, as Anders pointed out, when you hit the brakes, the front end drops down, you lose a lot of downforce and makes the rear end light, and that's what he said. The rear end's light. You got to be careful, and you got to brake differently, and so it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to enjoy your first week in the car.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think it's going to be basically trying to catch up. It's a whole new car, so obviously it's going to be, for me, I'll probably be one of 2 drivers to not have got to test, because Danica gets to do 2 days, I think, and other people get to do 2 or 3 days. So we'll see.
Well, hold it.
Yep.
How the hell did she get it?
She fits in the rule book.
Okay.
Yep. Trust me, I've been through an absolute fight for the last 2 weeks on just trying to get in the car, even for an hour, to shake it down for it's the 19 car, not my car, but the 19 car. But I just don't fit in the rule book. Apparently, it's quite a fight, quite a challenge.
Tell Jay to go with an eraser and change it.
I thought that was possible, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
either way, we're going to be prepared. We're going to try and go to the simulator, and actually that's been tough to do as well. But either way, I'm going to show up, and we're going to try and make the most of every practice day possible, and then go qualified up the front as near we can.
No doubt about that, and you should get a car that's capable, and obviously you're capable of driving it, so it should be a fun time. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your time.
No
Good
worries.
luck in May, and we hope to see you beyond that. But I'll call you after May and see what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Conor Daly.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate your time. Next week, I don't know. I just got back from St. Petersburg this afternoon. I have a couple things in the works, but I have an appointment at IU West tomorrow, and I don't know how long I'm going to be flat from that one. So we'll see. But again, you can go to autosportradio.com, click on the Autosport Radio show, and you'll see who the guests are. When I get them, I'll put them up. I was a little late this week because I was at the track most of the day. When I got home, I was too tired. I not home, but I got to my friend's house. But we'll be here next week, hopefully, and if I have a problem, I have somebody who will sit in for me, and we'll put a show together and look forward to seeing you then. Until next week, Don Kay saying thanks for watching, thanks for being here. And I want to mention that Chelsea Ebaugh and her sister Bailey are both here, and Dad got the short straw. Mike had to bring him. Glad to see him for after about a year and a half. Until next week, Don Kay saying good night. See you next week. You're not going to take him home?